This is Solving Proportions Part 3. In Part 1, we saw that we could use the giant 1 method, and in Part 2, we saw that sometimes by reducing one of the fractions in our proportion, we can still use the giant 1 method. However, there are some proportions that you cannot do that. 8/15 will not reduce, it's already in lowest terms. And 13 does not multiply evenly into 15. Therefore, we have to use a different method. Now, many of you have probably been taught you can cross multiply and divide, and that is a perfectly good method. However, when I have a proportion like this, and I have my variable in the numerator, then to get the variable by itself, to get the value of x, which is what I'm looking for x equals and then something that comes after that. Well, in order to get x by itself, all I really need to do here is to get rid of the 13. Now, this fraction bar means divide. So x is being divided by 13. So if I want to undo the division, I would do the operation that is the reverse of division. What would that be? That's right, it would be multiplication. All right, so what I want to do here to get x by itself is called undoing division. And I'm going to do that by multiplying by 13. So if I multiply here, let me clean this up a little bit. If I multiply by 13, or 13 over 1, same thing. If I do that, the 13 will cancel. And I'll have x all alone. However, this is an equal sign, which means that I have to do the same operation on the opposite side. So to keep my equation balanced, I would have to multiply the right side by 13. Now, 13 and 15 will not cancel, so on the right side, when I multiply, I have to multiply straight across. I get 8 times 13. Okay, 8 times 13, that's 104. And then 15 times 1 is 15. So there's my answer as an improper fraction. X equals 104/15. Or if you want to write this as a mixed number, it would be 6 and 14/15. However, when we get into higher levels of math, like algebra and geometry, calculus, etc., we tend to leave our answers as improper fractions. We really don't use the mixed numbers anymore. So you might as well just kind of break that habit and just leave your answer as an improper fraction. It's perfectly fine. You know, if you're not going to leave it as an improper fraction, then probably the other best way to do it would be to write it as a decimal. Okay, so here we have another example. Same thing, 4 doesn't go into 22 evenly, so I'm going to use the undoing division. I need to undo dividing by 4 on both sides, so I'll multiply by 4. The 4 will cancel. So I have n all by itself. Now, on the left side, I can reduce this. 4 will reduce into 22. It will go 11 times. Well, if you divide out of 2, rather, we can. So 4 will divide down to 2, 22 to 11. And so this will simplify it a little bit. Now I can multiply 15 times 2 is 30, and 1 times 11 is 11. So 30 elevenths is my answer. And I'm just going to leave it like that. All right, here's a third example. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video at this time and go ahead and work out the answer and then restart your video. Welcome back from pausing the video. I'm going to use undoing division by multiplying both sides by 9. So the 9's will cancel. And on the left side, nothing cancels, so I multiply straight across. 9 times 7 is 63. 1 times 13 is 13. So how'd you do?
All right, now notice this problem, that if we go to undo division, we can't do that because x is in the denominator this time. So in this case, I would just say go ahead and cross multiply and then divide. All right, so step 1, cross multiply. And what we mean by that is I'm going to multiply x and 6, and I'll multiply 17 and 5. Because in a proportion, the cross products are always equal to one another. So this is what allows us to do that. After I cross multiply, then my second step will be to divide, and my reason is to undo the multiplication of 6 times x. So I'll show you what I mean. So let's do this. Let's go 6 times x, so that equals 6x. And then 17 times 5, that equals 85. Okay, again, cross products of a proportion are always equal to one another. So that allows us to do this. Now, the divide part 2, is to undo the multiplication of 6. And by doing that, the 6's cancel. And so I have x all alone, which is what I want. And then I have my answer of 85/6, and I just leave that as an improper fraction.
All right, so which method would work here? Okay, that's right. Cross multiply and divide is going to be our best bet here because that variable is in the denominator. And I can't use the giant 1 method. All right, so let's cross multiply and divide. Go ahead and pause your video and then restart to check your answer. Welcome back from pausing the video. So we have 5 times n equals 18 times 12. Okay, 18 times 12, I believe, is 216. Oops, let's use black. Now we'll divide both sides by 5. All right. And that is it. 216/5 for our answer. That's all for today, so remember, read some books.